at this question. Justin weighs 5 bags of potatoes and rounds them to the nearest tenth. Which of the weights rounds to 7.6 pounds? Choose all the correct answers. Okay, so the most important thing here is I know that I am rounding. I can also see here I am going to round to the nearest tenth. And I want to choose all the correct answers that round to 7 and 6/10. So let's take a look here. I have 7.612. Let's round to the nearest tenth. I know the 6 is in the tenths place, and there is a 1 next door. Now let's remember my rule. 5 or above, I give it a shove. I know 4 or less, I let it rest. So I want to remember that rule to help me. So if it's 5 or above, I would round up. If it's 4 or less, I'll let it rest. So there's a 6 in the tens place and there's a 1 next door. Is 1 a big number or a small number? It's a small number. So since it's less than 4, I know my 6 is going to stay the same. So it's going to round to 7.6. Did the weight round to 7.6 or 7 6/10? Yes, it did. I'm going to check it off. Now, I am not going to stop there because it says to round to and find all of the correct answers. So that means there could be more than one. So let's try the next one. 7.506, 7.506, or 7 and 506 thousandths. And I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. So there's a 5 in the tenths place and a 0 next door. So there's a 5, there's a 0. If there is a 0, am I going to round up or am I going to keep it the same? That's right. I'm going to keep it the same because 0 is less than 4. So this 5 is going to stay the same. So it's going to round to 7.5 or 7 5/10. Now, did this round to 7.6? No, it did not. So I can cross it out because it rounded to 7 5/10. It did not round to 7 6/10. Let's take a look at the next one. 7.577. I'm going to read it. 7 and 577 thousandths. I want to round to the tenths place. There is a 5 in the tenths place, and there is a 7 next door. Now, if there is a 7, am I going to round up or keep it the same? 5 or above, I know I'm giving it a shove. Or 5 or more, I'm raising that score. So that 5 is going to increase by 1 more. What is 5/10 plus 1 more? It would be 6. So I know it would be 7 points. That 5 plus 1 more becomes 6. So when rounded, it rounds to 7.6. And I can double check. Did that round to 7 6/10? Yes, it did. I'm going to check it off. I also could double check by adding 2 zeros after. 0, 0. 577 is really close to 600. So I know that I rounded correctly. I could also do the same thing with all of them. So for example, with this one, I could add my 2 zeros after. I know 600 is really close to 612. So I know that I rounded correctly. Of course, I don't need those zeros, so I can erase them, but I can always add them to double check. Okay, let's try the next one because I know I'm not done. 7.657. Okay, I'm rounding to the tenths. I know there's a 6 in the tenths place, and then there's a 5 next door. Now, if there's a 5, am I going to round up or keep the 6 the same? That's right. I'm going to round up because 5 or more, I raise the score. So I know I'm going to raise the score by 1 more. I'm going to add 1. So what's 6 tenths plus 1 tenth? That's right. That 6 is going to become 1 more. So it's going to become a 7. So it rounds to 7.7 or 7 and 7 tenths. Now, 7.7, is that the same as 7.6? No, it is not. 7 and 7 tenths is not equivalent to 7 and 6 tenths. So I can cross that one out because it did not round to 7 and 6 tenths. Last one we're going to do, because of course I can't stop there. We have 7.562. And again, I know that's 7 and 562 thousandths. I'm rounding to the tenths place. There is a 5 in the tenths place, and there is a 6 next door. Now, if there is a 6, am I going to round up or keep the 5 the same? 5 or more, I raise the score. So I know I'm going to round up. So I know this 5 in the tenths place is going to become 1 more. So what's 5 tenths plus 1 more? I'm going to raise the score by 1. So that means it would be 7.5 plus 1 is 6. So it rounds to 7 and 6 tenths. 7 and 6 tenths, 7 and 6 tenths. So that one did round to 7 and 6 tenths. So for this question, the most important thing to remember is rounding every single one of these numbers. Some of them did round to 7 and 6 tenths. Some of them did not round to 7 and 6 tenths. We know that when we're rounding, we underline the digit in which we are rounding to that place value. We circle the neighbor that's next door, and we use our rule. 5 or more, we raise the score or round up. If the digit is 4 or less, we let it rest, or the value does not change. I hope this helps.